Hey everybody, welcome to Tarot Tuesday with Tori. And it's really funny. I'm looking at my cards and I'm going, okay, some of them are backwards. This is just an odd, I don't know about you, but I just came through this week of, well, we're in, as I'm recording this, today's August 19th on my recording date, and Mercury just is going direct, and we have still 4 other planets retrograding. And so I have to tell you, I just feel like I've been beaten up down a flight of stairs. I'm not kidding. This has been like, I'm exhausted. And one of the things that happens in a Mercury retrograde, and I don't think a lot of people recognize this, is that you have vivid dreams, you rest, because Mercury retrograde also gets that third eye energy. It is that chakra energy. And I have to tell you, it kind of knocks us around a little bit. And it's more really, I want to say, associated with where it falls in your chart. For example, Mercury retrograde, I have Mercury in the 12th house. Well, that's going to mean like all kinds of crazy prophetic dreams. And I had a lot of them this week. So these few weeks that it's been retrograding. So one of the things I want to look at is today we're going to pull 3 cards in my tarot deck, and we're going to look at maybe ways to cope with coming out of an extraordinary time, meaning a time that's been maybe difficult or challenging, perhaps grief-filled, or a time that you just feel depleted. And let's see what the tarot is going to tell us about personal depletion, and perhaps how to really recognize it and energetically reclaim who we are and where we're coming from. Ooh, this is great. I'm loving it. So one of the first thing I want to say is, when you go to a reader and they look at the cards and they're going, what they're doing is they're trying to engage you with them, because they're looking at the cards and they're trying to hone into the cards. So what I want you to do with me is take a moment, and we're going to look at each card together just for a moment. And I'm going to invite you to breathe and just bring some white light down from the heavens. And some of you already know what this card means. Now I'd like you to just energetically think of coming out of a challenging time. And I'm using Mercury retrograde as the example. You could probably use anything. If you just lost a pet, if you're starting school, you're finishing school, anything that's going on that has been a change, you can experience it as a loss, as challenging. Now, while this card may not necessarily be a card of loss, it's a card of emotional burden as well, and carrying much more than our whole body can handle. So sometimes coming out of a planetary, if you will, drama can be just as challenging. So let's look at the second card here. Again, some of you already know what tarot means, and so what I'm going to invite you to do is just let go of your knowing. Just let go of your wisdom. Just look at the energy of the card for a moment, and I want you to observe your own feeling. That's all. And to be honest, I feel a little bit like shaky, which actually makes sense with this card, because he's actually looking at the world in his hand, or she. And this person is really they have the world in their hand, but yet notice that the wands and they are not in motion. That's a thing too. When the wands are in motion, even in the 10, they're in motion. So there is a particular energy to this. And of course, whenever we see a double, now that's something interesting. You see a 2 here and a 2 here. And one of the things I want to say, having some chakra knowledge, I want to say also that when we look at the 2 of wands and we look at the 2 of cups, this has a very peaceful energy to it. I love the joining. I love the offering here of friendship. And what this is telling me is emotionally, you've been through a challenge, and maybe it's a good time to spend time with someone that replenishes you emotionally. So you can look at some of this of sharing your experiences too. If you've been through a hard time, one of the things you want to look at is, who's been through it too. I'm telling you, when my father passed and my mother everybody's gone. So mediums always have fun with me. The thing is that if you've been through a challenging time, remember that all the twos are second chakra energy. So when we look at this, emotional burden, emotional sharing. So whether it is that you want to reach out to someone new or someone who knows you, when we've lost someone, one of the worst things I think someone can say to you, if like when you lose, for example, when my father died, somebody said, "Oh, I know how you feel." I'm like, "Really? Did your father die?" "No, I've never lost anyone, but I lost a grand uncle once." And I'm like, stop it, because you really don't know how I feel. And I'm one of those people that's kind of incorrigible. Anyway, so I just kind of said no. So here's something I would say to you is, if that person had turned around and said to me, I don't know how you feel, but I'm here, and I've never experienced that, but I kind of get that it's something big for you. Man, that would have been so much better, right? So let's look at these two deuces, if you will, and how they work together. If you're looking at these cards right now and you're looking at, I picked up the 10 and I meant to pick up the 2 in my brain. See, this is like Mercury's going direct, but it's not direct. If we look at these two here right now and we look at the 2 deuces, going back to that, and we look at this emotionally, we can look at this person waiting for something. And so part of this also is perhaps this week you're looking to reclaim your feelings, kind of get a sense of how you really do feel about what has happened in the past. Now, this can be recent past or it can be distant past. This is the thing I want to say. When I read a darkness, dawn, and light spread, one of the things I say is this is what's going on internally. Even if you lost somebody years ago, an anniversary may be coming up, or it may just spark the time of year. A rainy day can make you remember it. And sometimes just our emotions can bring it back. So one of the other things that I suggested someone do, I had a client who was really in a challenging time, and she was like, I just am really having a hard time with, she'd had a loss in her life. And by the way, I experience a Mercury retrograde in a way as a loss, because it's a loss of momentum. It's a loss of productive momentum. Look at this. This person's moving, but it's not productive, is it? It is just overwhelmed. And now with all these other planets in retrograde, it does feel heavy still, even though you'll feel a little free in your mind. So when we look at these 2 cards, just remember here, the important thing is that reviewing what has happened and then finding a connection. So the client that I had, I just said to her, listen, because she couldn't find anybody that had been through what she'd been through. And I said, write a letter from your higher self to yourself and really validate your feelings. And it really is, that's a great exercise, by the way. Sometimes with tarot, the best thing we can do is say, you know what, I want this connection. I want this understanding, and I'm not getting it right now. And if you're not getting it, if somebody's reading you and you're not getting that connection that you're looking for, you can always come back or give this idea to a client if you're reading somebody to say, listen, write a letter to your future spouse from your higher self. If you're looking for a relationship, if you're looking for a completion, write all your regrets to that person. Write everything you feel. That is going to free you and allow you to step into this next chapter, if you will. Let's talk about just briefly some of the good things that have come out of this Mercury retrograde. And one of the fabulous things that Mercury retrograde does for us is it gives us a chance to go over, review, and go back and look at, oh my gosh, I want to get rid of 7 of these. Well, maybe 8 of these things I'm carrying. And I have to tell you, one of the things it does help you with is focus, focus, focus. Get rid of all the burdens. Are you really needing to do 10 projects at once? Because the truth is that a productivity coach is going to tell you to focus on one thing. Even if there's 12 you love, focus on one thing. If you end up dropping it between week 2 and 3, bear with me on this, that often means that you may not be committed enough to it emotionally. But also, finding a work buddy to work with and to share with, and someone who gets you. That's key. So if we look at a positive of Mercury retrograde, you get to see all the things you're carrying around that you don't want to carry, and really consider if you want to pick things up. Because remember, a retrograde is a time to go back over something. When it goes direct, you're moving forward into new relationships and new connections. And I will see you next Tuesday for Tarot Tuesday with Tori. And by the way, if you like the video, please subscribe to my channel. And also, I think you're going to notice that I do have card reading magic coming up at the taping of this. It is coming up in September. Go to cardreadingmagic.com and you are going to get fabulous speakers. My friend Sark interviewed me, and we've got like, oh my gosh, I think the schedule just went up. So I hope to see you all next week.